Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Personal paranormal experiences? I got one, I'll go first. Live in the Midwest, related to rich relatives. Pay their own daughter not to be a nuisance. She drops out of college. Cousin buys up huge plots of land with said money, dreams of making her own nature reserve. Really just an excuse for her hippie friends and her to make a commune. Want an excuse to do drugs and have pseudo-pagan parties and magic shit. They're all Nepo babies. Get a McMansion built with all the amenities. I am a loner and don't talk to many people, especially family. Get a call. Cousin is panicked about weird people and noise on property. Sends pics of black SUVs, people in suits on her land, and some men in black types at her door. She wants me there to look around. Her reasoning? I own an SUV outfitted for mudding and have guns. LMAOK. Might as well as I can use this as an excuse to pop a deer or two. Get there. A lot of weird shit I notice. Mudded up tire tracks, bloody handprint on door, no electricity, and their solar panels were damaged. But I hear their generators running. Big storm earlier. Maybe they got wrecked by that. Or maybe they're high off their asses and had a bad trip. Get to door. Told to fuck off and no one will open up. So I kick door. Call cousin. Feminon, it's me Anon. Open up already, you stupid shit. She opens the door a crack, jabs a knife out and threatens me. In response, I kick the door, hit cousin with the door, walk over and grab the knife. Stop doing weird shit, you idiot. She jumps up. Her nose is bleeding, and she jumps me crying. Oh, Anon-weird people were here. She never really liked me, but she's scared shitless, so now my hairs are up. Get the TLDR about everything. Suits, SUVs, big storm, some creature crawling around and tearing shit up. Ask about the bloody handprint. Some Asian girl in jeans, boots, and a jacket was beating their door asking to be let in. They ignored her. Say they have video. Go with cousin, two of her half-naked fat-ass friends to their security room. Crystals, evil eye wards, sage and incense burning, and new high-end camera systems. They can barely work it, so I waited for 10 minutes. Get it up, shows me the Asian girl who looks pretty professional. Good gear, aware of surroundings. Head is on a swivel and looking at everything. She has a big knife in her hand. Looks like some custom hunting shit. LMAO WTF is this shit, I ask. Girl looks spooked and takes off. Cousin shows me a blurry clip of something looking like it has 4 arms skittering around the edge of the camera's range. Looks like it's walking on 2 sets of hands and stubs. It's gripping and pulling at shit. Jumps and falls off their solar panels. Could be a person in a costume. Could be an elaborate prank. Know there's some Asian community farm a few miles out. Could be them spooking anyone nearby to buy up land. Don't know, but now I'm curious and ask to see the SUVs and the suits. Sure enough, some men in black looking fucks are there banging and calling out to my cousin to open up. Claims they're game wardens. BS. They don't drive tricked out SUVs and wear nice suits or carry briefcases. See Asian girl standing in the back with them in the video. So now I'm really creeped out and curious. Ask cousin to get her boy toy outside with me to unload some gear and to check the property. Skinny soy-looking fuck comes out from hiding under a blanket. Didn't even notice the asshole. He is stuttering and shaking and doesn't want to go outside. Tell him to shut up and help me lift shit as I won't have girls do it. Threatened to kick his ass, so he finally obliged to help me out. We grab some gear, mostly just extra clothes and crap. Want to leave most of my guns and shit in the car. He's upset about my side piece on my hip. Tell him to shut up as they called me for help. He hiccups and vomits. I'm done with family already and want to check this shit out. Get shit moving and stored. It's getting dark. Tell them to lock the doors, windows, keep shit closed and watch their generators fuel. Check and double-check ammo, gear, guns, and my vehicle. Turn on my Jesus lights. Get everything set. Grab binoculars. Scan the perimeter. Ask cousin if she knows of any odd shit on the property, or where people might have been. She points out near some overgrown fields and said lights were there. Check it out via binoculars. See an obvious car. Target set, I take off in my car. Lights illuminate so much, I love my lights. See tracks from vehicles, some litter. People were here. Get to the fields, and sure enough, I see an SUV. Driver's door open, battery dead, and some gear. Stay in the car, scan the area, and ensure it's safe. Pop out with hand on the holster, call out and get no answer. Dig through gear, loot. Clothes, some destroyed tech, walkie-talkies, some charger shit for phone, and cameras that were wrecked. Snap pics, grab gear, store it in my car and poke around. Nothing points to cults or cryptids or demons. Looks like someone dug through shit looking for shit. Snap interior and exterior photos of the cars. Can't find keys, so I ensure it's unlocked and close the doors. Walk around with a flashlight, check the surrounding area, and find shit. Animal noises, see some chipmunks, so obviously no demons or weird shit. Hop up on my own car, scan with binocs, spot several cars further away. See movement. Time to scope out the new area I see. Take off, get to the area, same as before. Look around, call out, holster ready. Poking around, checking gear found, same as above. All messed up, all strewn about. Turn around and get a butt of a rifle to the temple. Go down like bricks. Hear some muffled talking as I am fucked up. Asian girl standing next to 2 suits and a ton of cops. Cop on top of me, gun trained on me, as are several other guns. Get read the Rites Act of WTF you are doing here, and WTF are you looking for? I explain my side of shit. Asian girl huffs and says, they didn't help. I explained they're scared shitless and I got called in. Explain that I'm family. Cop picks me up, asks why I have gear in my car. Explain everything thus far. Get shoved in a working black SUV, asked for keys, and a suit drives off to my cousin's house with my car. Asian girl talking to cops, suits, and a dude in white. WTF, never noticed dude in white. Dude in white opens the door, smiles, smells of flowers, and tells me it'll be all right. Closes the door and walks off into black SUV. Waiting in the cop car, the Asian girl hops in next to me. 1001 questions. Explain what I can. You see weird creatures? LOL, nope. But let me tell you about the video I saw. Asian girl is unusually close. Feel the heat off her, and she smells off. Not bad off, but weird off. Like a perfume I can't place. She keeps asking the questions over and over. Get closer each time she repeats. I feel drowsy and excited. It's odd. She now starts touching me lightly. Hand on my thigh, brushing her lips against my cheek. I can feel her breath on my neck. Something is off and I feel like I'm drowning in her eyes, which I just noticed. Green with specks of orange. I feel entranced and can't look away. It feels like hours of her repeating questions. One stuck out. What's your name? Keep telling her it's on my ID and that people call me by my nickname only. She keeps it up, and now I feel weight on me. She's straddling me, holding my face to hers. It feels wrong. It feels right. I feel numb but electrified. She kisses me. I'm shocked and confused and taste something sugary. She pouts, looks confused, and gets out. I notice the outside looks a lot darker. Before I can say anything, a cop has me outside on the ground, taking off cuffs. Commanded to walk by the Asian girl, she's explaining that the land was falsely sold, and X amount is her family's land. Something about a prized animal got loose and that they thought cousin and her friends stole it. I felt like a zombie and sluggishly moved, felt like I couldn't deny her. We walked, we talked. Everything outside looked darker but more of a purple than normal night. I noticed the man in white again, long hair, whitish, and never moving. Get told to sit by the girl. There's a tree stump I didn't see before. I sit. She sits on me, talks and holds me. She likes how I taste, she kept saying, kept hugging me, and kept plying for my name, kept repeating my nickname. She isn't mad, just surprised. Suit shows up, they talk, and she still won't get off of me. She's excited and tells me to stand up after she gets off of me. I see some weird thing being led by a leash and hop into a SUV. I'm led back to the cop car. I feel like I'm floating. Blackout, wake up. I'm in my car in the middle of a field. I'm confused. I'm scared. I take a few minutes to piss. Longest piss in my life. There's a napkin on my dash with some odd bread and a handwritten note of thank you. I feel off and chuck the bread outside. No gear I found is in my car. Something is off. I end up by my cousin, and I see the cops are there. I get stopped. The cop looks at me and pushes me inside. Asian girl is there, and can barely keep my eyes open. Asian girl jump hugs me, kisses my cheek. Everything is now clearer, and I feel awake. Rescue farm down road, property lines, and an escaped mountain lion that was injured. Cops explain my cousin will be refunded X amount, and some land is going to be given back to the Asian girl. I'm thanked for stopping the lion and about some other shit I don't recall. Nothing else of note except the Asian girl keeps bumping into me in my area now. A few good miles away from my cousin's place. Same question. What's your name again? So yeah, that's about it.
The year was 2012. I had been over to my friend's house that lived at the end of the street in my neighborhood. It was late, maybe around 2 or 3 a.m. when I decided to go home. It was about a 5-minute walk back to my house. It was a really windy night. As I was making my way home, it suddenly became very quiet all around me, even though it was really windy. As it got quiet, I could hear something behind me, like if someone was walking towards me. I turned and nothing was there. I could hear the noise of wind in the trees again, so I ran the rest of the way home. As I got home, I locked the door behind me and headed upstairs to my room. At the bottom of the stairs, there is a window facing right into the backyard of my neighbors. They have a big orange floodlight in the backyard that is on all night. It is just an open backyard with no trees or anything, just grass. Also, these neighbors were elderly people and went to bed early. As I am walking to the stairs, I look out the window and I see in the middle of the backyard a really large silhouette of a person, standing in the middle of the floodlight facing me. It was standing completely still, and all I could see was the outline of a body. I bolted up to my room and locked my window, turned on all the lights, even the one in my closet. I couldn't sleep that night. I was freaked the fuck out. I didn't know if I just saw a ghost or if that was the thing I heard behind me while walking home.
Little background before the story, I suppose. About 10-13 years ago, I felt like some entity attached itself to me. It was always pretty subtle, mainly a feeling that something was there. A few occasions it made itself known to me. Never saw a physical manifestation, say like moving an object, a knock or something to that degree. When I say moving an object, a specific instance comes to mind. I used to keep a few pieces of silverware in a mason jar above the sink just for easy access. One night, while going about just another average night in my life, watching TV or some such, I felt like something was with me and asked it to show itself. I can remember the few forks and spoons in said mason jar spinning around inside the container. First time I had ever seen it do something rather than just feeling it. So the actual story, be me. Property manager at some high-end beachfront vacation rentals. Guests had just left and my cleaner arrived. Small home compared to what we generally manage, 2-story, 3-bedroom. Slow day, so I stick around and help her clean the home. We chat as we clean. Paranormal, supernatural subject comes up and she tells me some of her experiences, known her for a few years from working the job, so the stories seem right. Nothing too wild, cleaning the remaining dishes, not much was left dirty. There's this thick glass Pyrex baking pan I wash and hand dry. Place it on the counter. We sit in the living room area, her on the couch and me in one of the chairs. It all has a direct open view to the kitchen we were just in. Convo continues. Finally, I feel like sharing my experience about this thing attached to me. Begin telling the story. I start getting really uneasy. I can feel it around me and it's intense, more so than I've ever felt. Push on through and continue with my story. Before I can say much at all, this thick baking dishes literally explodes on the countertop. Glass is everywhere. Piece flies into her shin. She starts panicking, gathers up all her cleaning supplies, nopes out the house, meet her outside, says she's not comfortable in there anymore, calls her boyfriend to come and finish the clean without giving details. She refuses to step foot in the house again, says she could feel something cold over her as I was telling the story. Ever since, always has her boyfriend clean the home. Coincidence, maybe.
I promised myself I would never tell a soul about this experience, mainly for the reason that nobody will believe me. But you are just numbers on an image board, so this doesn't count. Anyways, be me. Final day of my father's wake. The pastor is finishing his sermon, starts to sprinkle my father's coffin with holy water. A line forms, starting with my father's elder brother and other siblings, followed by my mother, me. Up until this moment, I was blank emotionally, disassociated with the reality that my father is now gone. I would cry a little in the mornings looking at him in his coffin. My turn is coming. Out of nowhere, get overwhelmed with crushing sadness, grief, despair. Make my way to his coffin. Wailing cries come out of my mouth. Never cried like this in my life. Ugly cry while I sprinkle his coffin with holy water. Walk to a nearby chair and sit down. I just held my hands over my eyes and cried and cried. At this point, I'm trembling in my seat. I cannot control my body. Go weird sounds coming out of me. Suddenly, my face feels tight, like it's being held, like somebody was hugging me. I don't know who, but I can't open my eyes. I just kept crying. It's very comforting, the hug. It calmed me down enough that I could regain some composure. Look up. Nobody was there.
The world's gotten me feeling a certain kind of way tonight, so here goes. Be me, 6 years old. Stay at grandparents' house overnight due to maintenance problems with the family home. Always liked grandma. The place felt safe. Wake up in the middle of the night, abruptly aware that something else was in the room. Bed was in the middle of the room, with a U-shaped walking space connecting 2 doors on either side of the bed. Moonlight, I think, was brightly illuminating the window, keeping the room pretty lit. Some glowing white humanoid shape, not pasty skin, but made of white light that didn't give off any luminescence, was walking from one doorway of the room. Eyes were lit red. The outline looked human, but its head was weirdly stacked. I remember thinking its shape looked like a woman with a towel wrapped around her hair. Oh shit, I need to pretend to be sleeping. Pinched myself to confirm I was awake. It hurt. Thanks cartoons, close my eyes, immediately start dreaming of another place. Have a very long and intense series of dreams involving a massive wasteland with a skyscraper-sized dead tree and a full moon against a blood-red sky. Occasionally open my eyes to spot the white thing still walking through the room very slowly. Close eyes, immediately back in the dream again. The dream goes on for a long time. Fall into an underground city full of, I don't know how to describe them, hungry zombie-type humanoids. Spend hours running through a dark labyrinth. Keep my eyes very closed because the thing is walking right past me to get to the other door. Feels like I spent hours in the labyrinth. Eventually open my eyes and it's moved out of the bedroom and down the hallway to the bathroom. I never see it again. As an adult, many years later, I realized that this is the definitive moment where I developed aphantasia because my mind's eye was blinded after this experience, and I could not envision anything ever again while awake. I sometimes have vivid dreams.
I don't know how scared you felt during the experience, but this could be due to trauma, the mundane, psychological kind, or the spiritual. I don't know. Even if the lived experience didn't feel too bad, your brain will avoid things that are tangentially related to the traumatic experience.
All right, I'll bite. I've told this one before, but why not tell it again? Be me, in high school at the time. At a buddy's house with several friends. Rural area, house surrounded by a forest. Friend's house has been hyped up as haunted. Supposedly, a man built it for his wife. That dude then cheats on the wife or leaves her. Can't remember. The wife then offed herself on property. Now haunts the house and property. None of us really believe other than Buddy who lives there. Taking turns at GTA 4 having a good time. Everyone gets hungry, so they decide to go to Taco Bell. Walk outside and head to my car. One friend kinds of yelps and runs into me. We all turn around and see he's pointing into the open garage. Woman in a white dress with long hair standing between the 2 cars. Can't really see her features from this distance. She slowly fades away. Nope, out of there and get some crunch wraps. All of us saw it and described the same thing. We went back afterwards and tried to see it again, but no luck.
My wife's grandpa was dying of COVID in the hospital. Ventilator, whole deal. We visited him for a final goodbye, and all left. Next day, the whole family is in his house, waiting for him to die. I felt a presence. It felt like he was in the corner. Not the literal corner, but the corner of our reality or something. It's hard to describe. The feeling is similar to an out-of-body experience. Then I thought, what if it's Grandpa? I was so close to speaking up and saying, he's dead. About 5 minutes later, the hospital called. He was dead. At the time, I wanted to say it out loud so that my wife's family would think I was special because I was psychic or something. In those days, I had those types of feelings and experiences often, but it wasn't much different from imagination, and I never knew if I was just pretending to have out-of-body experiences. And I really wanted to be special and have those types of abilities, so I never knew if it was real or if I was hopelessly delusional. When that grandma died a few years earlier, we were also in the hospital. We all gathered around her and said the Lord's Prayer. She died right as it ended. Again, these could be coincidences. I mean, I wanted to be special, and we knew Grandpa would die soon. But what if it really happened? I've never told this to anyone. There was no physical form to the presence. Have you ever felt like there was a wall in reality, and we're just on the other side of it? Black and formless is how it felt in my head. I remember existence before my first memory. Maybe this is the experience right before you start to remember things and it's not paranormal at all. Anyway, I existed in some formless void place. It was dark. I had a sensation of falling or something, and I was immediately in my 2 or 3-year-old body, seeing things, etc. I knew where everything was. I knew my house, etc. Sometimes I wonder if this is simply what it feels like when your consciousness finally activates. Other times I wonder if I'm something else that possessed a human, and maybe that's what we all are.
I had a similar experience, Anon. When my grandma died, we were all in her room. She came back only because they offered us hospice. I felt something odd telling me to look at her just as she had her final moments. Then I looked behind me and saw a blurry but familiar silhouette of a younger woman when a taller man put their hands on my mother's shoulder. It felt as if they were somewhere else. Like that feeling you can see, understand, and perceive someone, but they can never be in the area as you, like a window, fence, or TV kind of thing. After I saw them for what felt like forever, a very warm feeling came over us, kind of like a comfortable heat you don't want to lose by getting out of bed in the middle of the night. Either way, I brought up to my mom after, because we have a long history, with that heebie-jeebie BS. She showed me a very old photo of my grandma in her 20s, and instantly clicked in my head that was the person I saw, along with a photo of my grandfather, whom I never met, but that was the other person I saw. My grandma had kinda dementia due to her condition towards the end. She always said, "He's coming back to take me, that it's finally time to go." We figured she was talking about Grandpa. She was extremely religious.
I used to manage a bar in a 150-year-old building that was 100% haunted. Apparently in the 1940s and 50s, the establishment doubled as a gambling hall, and one particular patron spent all his money and hung himself out the back where the kegs were stored and where the bathrooms were. To give a rough idea, the bar was rectangular with the shop front one of the short sides. The bar itself was located by the front, and in the middle of the rectangle was a fireplace and dance floor. Above the fireplace were the bathrooms and keg room. To get to the back area, you had to pass a narrow corridor to the right of the fireplace. Parallel to the right-hand long side of the rectangle was an outdoor smoking area that extended the length of the property. At the very top was where the guy originally killed himself, which in those times was an outdoor toilet. It was basically impossible to pass from one end to the other without someone noticing, because the interior was a narrow passage and faced the smoking area with large bay windows the entire length. Incidents I remember. Sitting at the fireplace on quiet Sunday evenings and hearing or feeling someone walk past me as if to the back, but nobody walked past. Happened several times. At closing time, we would collect all the glasses on the bar. Sometimes glasses would get slammed on the counter when nobody was by the bar, only staff present. If I locked up alone, I felt an overwhelming and uncomfortable presence, as if there were another person, an animal in the room. This would go away if I poured a bit of beer into a glass and put on music. A shadow figure would sometimes be seen walking through the outside area at night after closing with all the lights turned off. There was an outside door that would sometimes get slammed open on its own. Was friends with another shift manager who was super into the supernatural. He passed away and we held his wake there. The week that we reopened, only myself and 2 other staff stayed behind after cleaning and heard the front gate slam open violently. I ran behind the bar thinking I'd see robbers pass the outdoor windows, but I saw absolutely nothing. Went back with coworkers to have a drink, figuring it was the wind. The same thing happened again, and also shook the locked front door. Everyone is freaking out. I'm in charge now since this guy died, so I go outside thinking it's some drunk guy who climbed the gate. There is absolutely nobody there. Go to the bar facing us and ask the security guy there if he saw anyone try to break in. He says he was standing facing us the whole time and saw nobody approach and didn't see any movement. Go back and tell everyone it's fine. They're still panicking. Everyone decides to go home because they think their dead coworker is telling them to fuck off.
All right, /X/, I come to you not with a ghost story, but with the story of a ghost story. Maybe that's creepier. I've always loved listening to and telling scary stories, so I was lucky to grow up with a very superstitious family. There were many times when we would all sit together after some family gathering and my parent and uncles would tell stories about spooky experiences they had had. One particular story always stuck out to me. It was told by my grandfather, but always with some reluctance. This is largely due to the fact that it seemed a bit far-fetched, and he always insisted it had actually happened, despite the family's teasing. It was a good story to listen to and tell, though, so he told it often. My grandfather grew up on a farm a few miles from a nearby town, the one I live in. Town had a brothel at this time, late 1950s. Grandfather would often ride into town to visit a brothel and return late. One night he's coming home. He hears crying coming from a little ways off the trail. He gets off horse to investigate, sees a baby. Baby is alone, swaddled, and just bawling. My grandfather is confused as it's both the middle of the night and the middle of nowhere. He picks up the baby to take it back to town. It stops crying once he's holding it and seems to be asleep. When he's nearing town, he suddenly hears a man laughing. It's the baby. He looks down. The baby is staring right up at him, smiling. The baby has a full set of teeth, long, very sharp teeth. Terrified, he flings the baby away from him and gallops home. My friend reacted to this story much more strongly than I had anticipated. He grew visibly pale and was glancing around nervously. I was pretty proud of my storytelling skills for a while until my friend asked when this had happened. I told him my grandfather had been about 17, and it was in the 50s. Turns out his grandfather was about the same age and had a very similar story. His grandfather lived in town. He went riding in the evenings often. Would ride the trails along the river that cuts through our town, wandering and exploring. One evening he's riding along when he hears sobbing, is instantly frightened. The story of La Llorona is associated with this river. Realizes it's not a woman's voice, it's a boy's. Notices a small boy sitting beside the trail crying. Tries talking to the boy but gets no response. Decides the boy must be lost and frightened. He tells the boy he will take him into town and helps him onto the horse. Boy stops crying as they ride. About halfway to town, the boy starts cackling, looks back at the child. Its eyes are a dark red, and he notices its teeth end in nasty points. He panics, tries to push the boy off the back of the horse. Boy latches onto his arm. Horse becomes spooked and starts tearing down the trail. Coworker's grandpa is struggling with the boy while trying desperately to stay on horse. Finally dislodges the boy. It lands in the middle of the trail, still cackling. Rides into town as fast as he can. After hearing my friend's story, I was getting pretty spooked myself, so we dropped the subject and just focused on our work. So the next day I was curious and called my grandpa. Asked again if his story about the baby really happened. He swears that it did, so I asked him if anything similar had happened or if he'd told people. He said that nothing similar had happened he'd known of, and he'd kept it to himself until quite a while after it had happened. Luckily, people in my town don't leave it, so I take the chance to ask some of my friends and coworkers if they'd been told a similar story. There was one, different but with some of the same elements, that popped up very often. It's more similar to the classic ghost hitchhiker story. A lot of people said parents or grandparents talked about how sometimes when you were riding alone at night, you'd encounter a pretty young woman crying on the side of the road. In some versions, she would do nothing unless you let her get on your horse. Then she would eventually change into a hideous monster and latch onto you, waiting for you to lose control of the horse and fall. Either the fall would kill you or she would. In more sinister versions, she wouldn't wait beside the road. She lurked in the trees until you rode underneath, dropping down behind you and enacting the previously mentioned scenario. So at this point, but it started to get the feel of a folk legend, albeit one I hadn't been aware of. I took to the internet to see if it was widespread, and found search results just yielded parenting articles about the proper development of baby teeth. The only thing I could find similar was a Malay-Philippine legend about the Tiyanak. Apparently, this is a vampire-type creature that disguises itself as a baby or young child and cries to attract attention. Once it's picked up, it waits until a good moment to assume its true form so it can attack and kill its victim. A variation is the Pontianak, which is similar but can also take the form of a woman. I'm seriously considering the possibility that in the 50s and 60s my area was terrorized by one of these creatures or something very similar. I don't think it's just a folk tale, as neither is it famous in the Southwest, nor is it retold like it had happened recently. All of the stories are from that time period. What do you think /X/?
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.